The MLB offseason is off to the races, and the Philadelphia Phillies are already shopping Alec Bohm. We're going to talk about what this means for this team, why this is a more difficult decision than it may be made out to be for the all-star third baseman, and why Dave Dombrowski and the rest of the organization have to make sure that the right options are ahead of them before proceeding with this type of decision-making. So, Luke, I dropped my initial video kind of speaking about my main message being that Alec Bohm is a fine baseball player. I understand the frustrations, but the reality is you have to make sure you're improving your chances as a team to overall make a move and move on from the all-star caliber third baseman. Now, we've talked a lot about what you wrote in your article. I first want to start by referring to the Jeff Passan quote here, basically acknowledging that he was a night and day different player from the first half of the season to the second half of the season. Now, we were on here front and center kind of discussing that it did feel like there was some boiling over frustrations with Bohm and the organization. This isn't the biggest surprise to me, but Luke, what are your thoughts on these reports coming out?
Yeah, I mean these have been kind of flowing since the day they lost.
Yeah.
There was a big report the first day after they lost that some guys could potentially be on the market, like Bohm, like Castellanos, like Marsh, like some more guys as well. So I think these are going to continue for probably most of this offseason. I think Bohm is a piece that can definitely be traded. I don't think he's some guy that has to stay, but it definitely, like you said, has to be for the right move, because this could be a piece that could get you a really nice player. And I don't think they want to screw it up really by just like sending him out of the building. They're only going to really do this for the right deal, I think.
Yeah, I think that is correct. And to allude to specifically what was written in your article for Crossing Broad, shout out to you. You write, recency bias has struck some fans in regard to Bohm, but it's not unwarranted. He was benched in Game 3 of the NLDS because of his lack of production at the plate and his demeanor on the field. The 28-year-old stepped back to his past young self under the bright lights this season. The defense, offense, and attitude all weren't good enough for a player that started the All-Star game just a few months prior. It's also worth noting that Alec Bohm carried the Phillies lineup for the first month of the season. He slashed .370, .448, and .630 in April, had an .812 OPS in June, and it all started to go downhill from there. The player that logged 44 doubles in 2024 and succeeded in getting deep in counts once saw 5 pitches and 4 at-bats in the NLDS. Which player is here to stay? So before we shift gears to kind of the trade targets that you mentioned, that is my question to you, Luke, is which player is here to stay for Alec Bohm?
I don't know. Then that's where I think the Phillies are kind of in a tough spot. Are you keeping the player that, you know, hit 370 in April for you, or are you getting the guy that you watched just every single putrid at bat in the NLDS? So, I mean, that's really what they have to figure out.
Yeah.
What are you getting from a guy that's basically going to be 29 next season? It's not like this is some 24-year-old like second-year player. This is a 5-year guy that's been in the majors now for 4 or 5 seasons. So like that's really what they need to think about, because if they don't see a future for Bohm long term, then get rid of him while you can. Don't let him walk away. Trade him for something that's valuable, right? There's a few big time relievers out there that are going to be some heavy packages, like a Ryan Helsley. I know we've already sort of mentioned these guys, but Phillies have some options here. They have ways that they can go about this, but once again, I don't think they're going to just dish Bohm to dish him out.
Nor should they. And I agree with that assessment.
Correct.
I agree with testing the market. I also, to be perfectly honest, think there's a real chance that this is the peak of the Alec Bohm value. That I was skeptical that he could take the leap that he did take for the first half of this year heading into the season, that I had my doubts about Alec Bohm, was surprised at the level of production that he produced through the season. But I did want to pick your brain a little bit more on these targets that you mentioned. Now, I'm pulling up the article that you have specifically written. Do you think moving Alec Bohm for a high-level reliever is something that improves this Phillies team? And if so, what is the third baseman replacement? Is Aiden Miller ready? It doesn't seem like that seems to be the vibe of the organization. What's your thoughts on how they would actually replace him at third base?
Yeah, so that could be sort of a rental thing.
Okay.
That's a guy that you can find maybe in the free agent market. There, as far as big names, I don't think they're going to go get some big name third baseman. If they did get rid of Bohm, I think it would be sort of maybe like a 1 or 2 year deal on a guy. But I don't necessarily see third base being their target this offseason if they were to get rid of Bohm. They're obviously going to have to fill the hole. That's definitely something that they know. But I don't think it's some pressing need to go get some elite big time guy because you have Aiden Miller soon. So I mean, if you could go look for a 1 to 2 year rental, I mean, I don't think Alex Bregman wants to take a 2 year deal, but if that was the case, I would definitely check in on that. I think he wants more of a longer deal. But if they were to dish Bohm, it'll definitely be sort of like a rental thing, I would say.
Yeah, and I did kind of agree with the sentiment from Philly Nation on Twitter here, saying I'm not a massive Alec Bohm guy, but he's worth more than a 1 year rental closer, 1 year rental closer that has had injury problems and who also probably wants around $20 million a year. But that's just me. Now I understand the concerns here. I did want to dig in a little bit more specifically on what you wrote about Nolan Arenado and what kind of possibility that would be. What's the situation out there for a potential trade to occur, and like how much would that improve the Phillies? Do you think?
Yeah, so it seems like the Arenado thing, at least across the league, seems like he's definitely going to leave St. Louis. I get worried about Arenado. It's been a very steep decline since the beginning of the 2022 season. He didn't have a great 2024. His last two seasons, they honestly weren't really anything to really like love. I didn't think he was that great in 2023, and last year I don't really think it was great at all. This seems like a guy that's sort of definitely on a decline, and I feel like that would be a package that would get a little too pricey. I don't think that would be the best case scenario for the Phillies. I mean, I don't think it hurts them to at least sort of ask the Cardinals about it. But I don't think that's something that you like trade Bohm and like sell the farm for necessarily.
Okay, interesting there. I guess my last point that I wanted to reinforce and bring up here, I don't think you bench a guy in the playoffs just on a whim. I think this
Correct.
was very clearly something that was thought over by the organization, that they knew what they were dealing with, and I do get the sense that the internal frustrations may be a little bit greater than has been publicly let known to this point. Do you feel the same way with that? And what do you think the percentage you would say that Alec Bohm does leave or is traded this offseason?
Ooh, I think it's a little more likely than people think.
Okay.
I think, like you said, I think the benching thing was very eye opening to me.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I think I and honest to God, and I don't want this to turn into some big thing, right? Like this is just me taking a wild guess. I don't think Alec Bohm is a favorite in that locker room for Rob Thomson.
Yeah.
I don't think Rob loves the way Bohm goes about his everyday. He just mopes around.
Pouty.
If he gets down, he's just pouty. Like he's just mopey. He doesn't act like a 28-year-old 5 year guy should by now. So I think it's more likely than people think. If it's the right deal, I would do it. I think you need to shake some things up. I think Bohm was great for a month and a half of this season, and he honestly had the Phillies. It's like on his back for probably like 2 months. But other than that, man, it was pretty brutal. So I don't know if the right deal is here and the right deal is there for the Phillies to maybe send him out to make this team better. I think they should definitely do it.
Yeah, and I do think they're going to search and find out what the answer to that is if they can find an upgrade or find something that makes this team better or opens up some more options. I do get the sense they will pull the trigger as well. So pretty surprised that this is kind of the state of Alec Bohm. I didn't think it would be as widespread or I guess as well known as seems to be the case around league circles, and obviously Jeff Passan running with it. It is the time of the offseason where things are starting to stir up, so I think this is going to continue. I'm absolutely with you there, but we will see what happens with this Phillies team and with Alec Bohm. But for you guys in the comments, want to hear who your dream target would be or your ideal third baseman next season for this Phillies team. So let it rip below. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video, and me and Luke will be back talking to you with some more offseason noise next time.